All right, so you've given us a pretty big challenge this time. We're looking at a huge stack of sources covering the 12 biggest stories in AI from 2025.
It was a massive year.
It really was. And our mission, as always, is to distill it all down for you, to give you that curated, rapid-fire rundown. Because 2025, it wasn't just another small step. It felt like the year AI finally shifted from theory into, well, into the real world.
Real world application, real world regulation.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. We've got global investment, national strategy, these huge legal fights. We're going to hit all 12, but we'll group them thematically so you can see how all these pieces connect.
Right. And if you sort of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, 2025 wasn't just about, faster or bigger model.
Right.
It was about laying the actual foundations, the physical, the legal, the conceptual foundations for the next decade. The sources show this clear pivot away from simple chatbots toward real infrastructure, real autonomy, and trying to get a handle on the risks.
A perfect place to start, then, is national ambition, the geopolitics of it all. And the big story there in 2025 have to be India. Our first major story is the launch of Varakyan back in June. This was India's first government-funded, homegrown, multimodal, large language model.
And that is such a huge statement, a statement about digital sovereignty.
Great. It's about self-reliance.
Exactly. For so long, the focus has been on Silicon Valley or maybe Beijing. But Varakyan shows that major nations are just. They're not content to be consumers of someone else's AI anymore.
And the interesting part is how it was designed. It supports 22 Indian languages.
Which is the whole point. It's a cultural safeguard as much as a technological one. If your AI is only trained on Western data, on English, it's going to fundamentally misunderstand or even exclude billions of people.
So this is about making AI actually relevant for daily life across the entire country.
Precisely. And that's a strategic play, which of course needs money and hardware to back it up.
Which leads directly to our second big story.
Yeah.
The implementation of it's the 10,372 crore Indy AI mission.
That's the infrastructure play. We're talking about a massive deployment of public computing power. According to the sources, 38,000 high-end GPUs.
Wow.
But the truly transformative part is the democratization. Unlike the US, where a few giant companies control almost all the computing power, this mission gives Indian developers and startups access to that power at subsidized rates.
That completely changes the game for a startup, doesn't it?
It's a massive accelerator for innovation. It just demolishes the barrier to entry and positions India to become a global hub for AI talent. It's a really significant move on the global chessboard.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly for the next big conceptual shift we saw in 2025. This move from AI as a passive tool to AI as an active autonomous system.
Agentic AI.
Agentic AI. That's our third story. And the shift was huge. It went from, say, hey, AI, summarize this document for me, to,
hey, agent, handle this entire commercial loan application, do the background checks, the risk assessment, draft the contract, and only bother me if you run into a problem.
Right. And we saw real-world examples. Wells Fargo using agents for lending. Gap using them for these incredibly complex supply chain logistics.
Then this is where AI moves out of the lab and straight onto the company's balance sheet. It's about saving time, saving money, saving human capital on a huge scale.
But that kind of autonomy needs a ton of power, right? An agent can't manage a supply chain for a week if it forgets what happened on day one.
Exactly, which is why we have to talk about the hardware. That's our 11th story. NVIDIA releasing the Nemotron 3 series.
The hardware leader.
Still the undisputed leader. And they launched these models specifically for these deep autonomous agent workflows. The key spec here, the one that really matters, is that the Ultra version supports a context window of 1 million tokens.
Okay, let's break that down. For anyone listening, why does 1 million tokens matter so much?
Think of it like working memory. For most of 2024, an AI's memory was like reading the first 10 pages of a 500-page book. It would forget the early details by the time it got to the end of a task.
Got it.
1 million tokens is like being able to hold that entire 500-page book in your head perfectly for the entire duration of the task. It provides the vast, durable context that effective agentic AI absolutely requires.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't just software agents on a server. 2025 was when we saw this idea of embodied AI start to feel real, which is our 8th story. The big updates to the Tesla Optimus humanoid robot.
This is where it all comes together. Tesla showed Optimus with way better manual dexterity and much better balance. And that's not just a cool demo.
No.
It's about integrating that complex agentic software into a physical body that can navigate the real, messy, unpredictable world. Not just a clean factory floor, but the chaos of a real environment. We're starting to see that happen.
So you got this global infrastructure build out, you got autonomous agents getting smarter, backed by incredible hardware. What happens next? Market disruption.
Of course.
Our fourth story is a direct shot at the biggest players. OpenAI launches the Atlas AI browser.
A total interface shift.
The sources are clear on this. It's a direct challenge to Google's dominance in search. Instead of 10 blue links, Atlas just does the research for you. It summarizes, it completes tasks, all right there in the browser.
It's an attempt to completely bypass the established search and ad revenue model. It's the ultimate end run.
And that kind of competition creates a huge demand for powerful but also accessible reasoning models.
Which brings us right to the seventh story. DeepSeek R1. This is where the democratization of power really kicks in.
A Chinese open source model.
Right. And it achieved reasoning that was, until then, only possible with the most expensive proprietary models from the big Western labs. But it did it at a 96% lower cost.
96%. That's not a discount, that's a structural market shift.
It is. It means advanced AI problem solving is suddenly accessible to independent developers, to startups everywhere. You don't need a $10 million budget just for model access anymore. Innovation just explodes.
Okay, so with all this cheap, powerful, autonomous tech exploding,
Yeah.
the governments decided they needed to step in.
They had to.
That's our fifth story. The EU AI Act starts its staged implementation.
And like it or not, this immediately became the global benchmark. It categorizes AI by risk level from minimal to unacceptable. It's the world's first real comprehensive regulatory framework for AI.
And even though full enforcement isn't until, 2027, they started rolling out support tools right away in 2025.
Things like AI factories and a central service desk to help businesses, especially those with high-risk applications, figure out how to comply.
And that high-risk category is the key.
Right. That's where the rubber meets the road. If your AI is deciding who gets a loan, or managing critical infrastructure, or helping with hiring, you now have a massive compliance burden. The EU showed they understand that passing the law is easy. Getting businesses to comply is the hard part.
All right, now we shift to where the stakes were highest in 2025. Health, money, and the law. Starting with the good news, our sixth story, the breakthroughs in AI-powered healthcare.
This was really incredible to see.
I mean, these are just amazing life-saving examples. We saw AI models hitting superhuman levels of diagnostic accuracy, spotting patterns no human doctor could see.
Like identifying biological aging from a simple X-ray.
Right, or spotting these really elusive heart conditions from a standard 10-second EKG.
But the one that really stood out from the sources was in therapeutics. An AI actually designed a novel molecule that makes chemotherapy for pancreatic cancer significantly more effective.
That's incredible. Moving from diagnosis into actual drug discovery.
It's a massive leap.
Of course, that kind of potential requires a staggering amount of capital. Which brings us to story number 10. Massive investment in AI infrastructure and this project called Stargate.
And when we say massive, the numbers in 2025 were just unprecedented. They dwarf previous tech booms. The sources mention a $40 billion investment in OpenAI led by SoftBank.
$40 billion.
And Amazon pledging $50 billion just for government AI infrastructure. But the one that really puts the scale of ambition into perspective is the plan for the Stargate AI data center, a $500 billion initiative.
$500 billion. How do you even contextualize that?
It's roughly the entire annual GDP of a small G7 country, just for data centers and chips. This isn't just an investment. It's a colossal, almost existential bet on building the computing capacity for the next generation of AI.
And all that training, all those data centers, they need one thing, data. And that leads us to the biggest legal fight of the year, our ninth story.
The copyright battles.
The major legal battles over data scraping. This was the critical IP fight of 2025. You had Reddit, you had prominent authors, all filing these landmark lawsuits against giants like OpenAI and Apple. And the core question was, is scraping all this copyrighted data to train a model fair use, or is it just massive infringement?
And these court cases are about so much more than just money. They're setting the legal precedent for the entire data economy. The outcome will decide what AI companies can use, what they have to pay for, and what permission they need from creators. It defines the rules of the road.
So if that's the internal conflict over IP, our final story, number 12, is the urgent external threat. The one that forced new laws to be written.
AI-generated disinformation.
And the new legislation it triggered.
The tech just got too good in 2025. Deepfakes became so sophisticated they were being used for real-world harm. Large-scale financial scams, racist propaganda in Europe aimed at destabilizing elections. The damage was real.
And so the response had to be sharp.
It was. The sources highlight the U.S. AI Fraud Deterrence Act, a bipartisan law that basically criminalizes using AI for fraud, with penalties up to 30 years in prison.
Wow.
Yeah. It shows the focus shifted from regulating the technology itself to regulating the malicious intent behind its use.
Okay, so let's try to wrap our heads around all that. We've just gone through the 12 biggest stories of 2025. It's a lot.
A phenomenal year of change.
We've got nations building sovereign models and massive infrastructure. We saw that huge shift from passive tools to industrial agents.
Markets getting completely disrupted, regulators rushing to catch up.
So what does this all mean? It means the foundational infrastructure is built, the agents are awake, the market is in chaos, and the lawyers are very, very busy.
They certainly are.
And before we wrap up our deep dive, just a quick announcement. For all of you listening on AIPod, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, everyone.
We'll be taking a short break, but we will be back with our next deep dive. It'll be published on the first Monday of next year.
Indeed. And, all this talk about 2025, it raises one final question for you to consider.
Ellie.
If the industry is moving this fast toward fully autonomous agents, and the IP laws are being hammered out in court right now, how long is it before an AI agent is tasked not just with managing a supply chain, but with navigating the legal landscape of copyright for its own training data?
The AI has to figure out the legality of its own existence.
The technology is creating its own legal and ethical problems faster than we can write the code to solve them.
That is a truly provocative thought to end the year on. A perfect bridge to whatever comes next. Until the new year, stay curious.